Okay, I've seen a lot of people trying to get down to the bottom of what's going on in Ukraine. And I'm going to read an article. This is one video I'm going to do, and I got another one that I'm going to do after this. But this might help shed some light on what's going on in Ukraine. Okay, this article is from Richardson Post. It's called Ukraine, Piggy Bank of Corrupt U.S. Democrats. And it's from October 10th, 2019. It said, "Yes, Robin, to Ukraine." It's got a picture of Batman and Robin. It says, "Yes, Robin, to Ukraine. We've not a minute to lose. Soros, the Joker, is at it again. With Trump as president, we'll stop him." Then underneath here it says, "Yes, Robin, it's true. The grand wizard of evil, the great poobah of corruption. George Soros was behind the politicians who so fueled the 2016 election in America using ill-gotten gains from a lifetime of crime. Long story short, Soros sought control of the natural gas industry in Ukraine to leverage an energy market against Russia, but he needed U.S. government stooges to make the play for him. His political purchases in Washington, D.C. were delivering just that. But then along came Trump, a very big surprise to Soros and the Democrats apparently, because all of their dirty laundry was still hanging out in Ukraine when the new president moved into the White House in 2017. Panic ensued, and all the apparatus of the deep state was put into operation to remove him even before he took the oath of office, to prevent detection of what they had done in faraway Ukraine. Soros was already indicted in France and under investigation in both Ukraine and his home nation of Hungary. But regardless, this former Nazi is more protected by Democrats in the U.S. than the spotted owl." Thought that was pretty funny. Why? Because they are of one globalist mind and money his. Soros is the number one purchaser of politicians in the world. I don't think any of us should find that hard to believe. He governs the entire Democrat Party in America as well as its domestic and foreign policy by purchasing that party's power players and cutting them in on lucrative situations to maintain that control. Ukraine was a huge play, for example, and he had all the key Democrats from top to lower top set to make a fortune there, while he made several fortunes. It's known as the Soros play, and this play required more than just the Yanks. Soros needed EU players as well, so he went shopping. Nigel Farage announced in the EU Parliament that a Soros Open Society memo bragged of controlling 226 of 571 members, which is roughly 40%, and that corrupt body as well. Between all the Democrat Yanks and the 40% of the Brussels sissies, Soros controlled a healthy chunk of Western civilization, which Nigel Farage described as the biggest international collusion in history. Soros put his top minions on the job, President Obama and his corrupt Vice President Biden, as well as two other Soros recruits, Hillary Clinton and John Kerry, both Secretaries of State for Obama. Their orders were to get this Ukraine energy takeover done while energizing his Brussels punks to assist with pressure from the EU. But there is a new wrinkle to all of this. It was just disclosed yesterday that George Soros was also being investigated by consecutive Ukraine prosecutor generals, Yuri Lutsenko and Viktor Shokin, when the Obama administration corruptly forced the investigations closed back in 2016. Okay, everybody should know about this, but if you don't know about this, you can probably Google it and type in quid pro quo. This was the legit quid pro quo where Biden told Ukraine that they weren't going to get the $1 billion in funding or loans. Sorry, it was loans. Unless Viktor Shokin was fired because he was looking into not just George Soros, but from the way I understand it, he was looking into Hunter Biden as well. Anyway, moving on. Could that be why Democrat Senators Dick Durbin, he's from Illinois, I know him, Leahy and Menendez recently traveled to Ukraine to warn them to be quiet about all of this under Trump as well or lose funding? Yes, but then there was a miracle. An honest comedian was elected president of Ukraine to battle such jokers. Obama was beholden to Soros for all and could not refuse the Godfather on any request. There would have been no Obama presidency without George Soros. Human Events magazine credited the old Nazi with making an Obama administration even possible. And they're right. The first shots in the Obama Revolution, the highly unlikely campaign that elevated an inexperienced former Chicago community organizer born in Hawaii and raised in Indonesia into the Oval Office, were fired at the Long Island Southampton beach house of billionaire hedge fund manager George Soros. Soros funded Obama's 10-year career in national politics with millions, but made billions in return on insider profiting, mainly in the energy sector, but also through having special access to his State Department, even directing it from time to time on geopolitical matters, specifically Ukraine and Iran. Isn't that funny? But always to his own benefit. No. We've previously discussed how Tom Steyer, Steyer, Marty Nesbitt, and other Obama insiders were told to trash energy stocks, offshore platforms, and coal by day to make Obama look environmental, while snatching up those publicly crushed shares at a discount that night. With Uncle George Soros being lead pig at the Democrat insiders' feed trough. Hillary Clinton, well, she should just call him daddy. I'll leave it at that. Adding that without Soros, she might have had to stay home making cookies for Chelsea. But then her Clinton Foundation would be light a few billion. All true. For sure, there would have been no sellout of her nation giving Russia 20% of America's uranium stores without Soros. That's Uranium One deal, proven. It's still out there. Her State Department approved this traitorous sale of Uranium One to Putin in exchange for $145 million in gifts to her Clinton Foundation, setting a new record in pay-to-play politics. As Secretary of State, this queen of pay-to-play even assigned staff to take care of George Soros' needs and helped him make billions while she was in office. Yes, billions. John Kerry, it's a little more complicated. It's no secret Uncle George slipped more than $23 million to John Kerry's unsuccessful bid for president in 2004. That's public information. But the payback is less transparent and a little more subtle than Clinton's. John Kerry's service to Soros during his stint as Mr. Pay-to-Play under Obama included introducing him at private State Department events and giving special privileges at the highest levels of U.S. government, a practice unheard of before Obama's reign of corruption. The Washington Free Beacon quoted former Bush advisor Michael Rubin as saying Kerry's introduction of Soros at private State Department functions was the diplomatic equivalent of prostitution, following Hillary's lead, and there were handsome rewards. Soros even found and introduced a nice Iranian-American boy to marry the Kerry's daughter and hooked them up with lucrative contracts to pad their secret offshore accounts from insider deals in Iran, the land of the mullahs, which is perhaps America's worst enemy. Some have called what Kerry has done since with those contracts treason, but we'll just call it payback from Uncle George for the purposes of this report. But as you can see, it has paid off. John Kerry is rich as King Croesus. Well, I'm not sure it ever happened before August of 2016, but we can prove it did then, in service to the man under investigation, George Soros. Marie Yovanovitch was put in place as ambassador to Ukraine in August 18th, 2016, during the heat of the election campaign, when it dawned on these arrogant Democrats that Trump actually had a chance of winning. Corrupt practices leading back to the Obama administration and its main funders were under serious scrutiny by Ukraine's top prosecutors, and if Trump won, even their permanent deep staters would never completely cover it up, as history is proving at this very minute. And that is true. Hillary Clinton's campaign was implicated in the investigation, as was Tony Podesta, Alexandra Chalupa, Joe Biden, and John Kerry's family payoffs from a Ukraine natural gas giant, Nancy Pelosi's family connections to Ukraine oil deals through her son, Paul Jr., and most importantly, they had to protect the Grand Wizard's attempted takeover of the nation's natural gas assets to keep the dirty cash rolling in. It was paramount that this scheme is covered up to protect them all. Ukraine dirt was under all their fingernails, so when national hero Yuri Lutsenko was hired to clean up the mess Soros and Obama's people had made of his country, the Obama administration went into panic mode. Lutsenko was getting close to indictments of the company they used as their piggy bank, Burisma Holdings, and Soros had been identified as being the funder of much anti-Ukraine activity and corruption through front organizations set up to aid U.S. Democrats. U.S. Ambassador Yovanovitch was sent in by Obama and Secretary of State Kerry as a pinch hitter to clear the bases, which were loaded. She immediately sought out Prosecutor General Lutsenko and ordered him to shut down an investigation of the Democrats and their donors over their illegal activities in Ukraine, or loose funding, quid pro quo, Democrat style. Dispensing with pleasantries, Yovanovitch, according to the columnist John Solomon, who interviewed Lutsenko, said the U.S. ambassador gave me a list of people whom we should not prosecute. Truly unprecedented. Oh. On that list was not only the company from which Secretary of State John Kerry and Vice President Joe Biden's kids were profiteering, but also the Obama administration Soros-funded front group going under the unlikely moniker of ANTAC, A-N-T-A-C, Anti-Corruption Action Center. Is that not, I mean, seriously, the irony from this stuff. These people, ANTAC, Anti-Corruption Action Center, for, well, corruption. This implicated Hillary Clinton, her campaign, several top Democrats, and even the President of the United States who approved the scheme. And no, we're not talking about Trump, the other one, the one that was supposedly born in Hawaii. That was why Obama launched his counterintelligence action in the summer of 2016 against Trump and his campaign to give his own people cover and hide what they had done by turning the probe on Trump's temporary campaign manager Paul Manafort and other non-essential Trump campaigners. It was a cover. Soros-funded ANT-AC, which is the anti-corruption crap, even while under investigation, was used to do that. What a name. ANT-AC, A-N-T-A-C. It's like they're fascist Antifa being called anti-fascist, thinking we believe the bullshit name rather than see what they do, and they plan to use it to drag Hillary, the worst candidate in history, over the finish line against Trump. So, the scam was to get Hillary elected using foreign dirt and spies, but what did Kerry get out of it? Keep in mind that Kerry has already reaped tens of millions from Soros groups before, which is public information, but it is likely other fortunes flowed his way from Soros for shutting down the investigation into Ukraine. I would think so. Remember also from my last article that John Kerry's stepson was a partner with Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, in Rosemont, Seneca. It doesn't say the name in here, but they're talking about Devin Archer, I believe is the person they're talking about here. The little U.S. company paid $166,000 a month to advise Ukraine's natural gas giant Burisma Holdings on legal affairs in Ukraine, and it just broke today that Vice President Joe Biden was paid $900,000 for consulting by Burisma Holdings, which corresponds in timing with Biden threatening Ukraine he would withhold the $1.2 billion in funding unless these investigations were shut down. What do you know? I would have never guessed it. Biden's got his hands in the pot. Who could have guessed that, guys? These kids knew nothing about natural gas or Ukraine law, but raked in $3 million we know about so far for their family relations, which President Trump's lawyer Rudy Giuliani has now traced from Burisma accounts to Latvia to Cyprus, which is called money laundering, before hitting the Biden-Kerry boys' account in New York. The Democrats were so woven into Ukraine, they were bumping into each other, including Speaker of the House Nancy Stretch Pelosi. No, not her. The impeachment queen, now trying to take down Trump. That's right, the impeachment hoax is meant to distract attention from what's coming out. Pelosi launched impeachment proceedings against President Trump last week in retaliation for his looking into the Democrats' Ukraine scandal, but also to protect her own kid and much of the Democrat hierarchy, including Obama. Like most other Democrat leaders, Nancy's son, Paul Pelosi Jr., boy, he's managed to stay out of the headlines for somehow, is also on the board of Ukrainian businesses. No, not Nancy. No, she's legit. His experience in the field to justify such a position is the same as Democrat Vice President's kid and Democrat Secretary of State's stepson at Burisma. None, except that his daddy sleeps with his mama. And he's also a Democrat. I live next door to Ukraine and Poland and know a couple of top advisors to the new President Zelensky. According to them, something amazing is happening. By simply cutting off the Democrats' corruption and access to Ukraine officials, Ukraine's own corruption is disappearing. No Democrats and Obamites to bribe them, no officials to take. Amazing. It appears the Democrats were not only the beneficiaries of Ukraine corruption, but its cause. Our Polish president, I'm not going to be able to say this name, Andrzej Duda, was the first person President Zelensky spoke with after his big 73% win over the Democrats' collaborators. These same corrupt Democrats tried to hurt Poland, and it is not forgotten. President Duda promised to help Ukraine in cleaning up the mess the Democrats caused, and some very serious people here in Warsaw are on it already. More to come on that, and watch for breaking news on Romania. I don't have enough corroboration yet, but the Democrats were there too, and it stinks. New sheriff in town, Nancy, and you're pretty much screwed, all of you. President Zelensky may have been a comedian before he took over Ukraine as its leader, but getting rid of people like you who trashed his nation is no joke, Nancy. You, your son, George Soros, Joe Biden, his kid, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, and even Mitt Romney. You're all on notice. Game over. None of your deep staters is being allowed near this investigation. The Eastern Europeans are working directly with Attorney General William Barr using private investigators, but I promise you it's happening. And in closing, President Zelensky will have some questions for you. 1. What are dim spooks like Cofer Black, CIA, and U.S. Democrat banker Alan Apter, Merrill Lynch, and Morgan Stanley doing running Ukraine's largest energy company? Oh, that's a good question. Why are U.S. Democrat politicians' kids like Hunter Biden and John Kerry's stepson and his campaign guy, Devin Archer? Oh, sorry. So the stepson is somebody else, but I knew Devin Archer was involved too. Advising Burisma Holdings with a total collective experience of 0, maybe even -0. Maybe negative. Why is a former prime minister of another Eastern European nation suspected of corrupt practices, Alexander Kwasniewski, I can't say that word, on the board? Why is Burisma, that was question 3. Question 4, why is Burisma based in Cyprus instead of Ukraine when Burisma Holdings is part of the vast business empire of Ukraine's second richest billionaire oligarch, Ihor Kolomoisky, according to your own reports? And number 5, why did Obama's State Department, Victoria Nuland, a familiar name from the Russian hoax, pressured Ukraine to put Soros-friendly oligarch Kolomoisky as governor in charge of the, oh man, that name, I can't say these names, Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, I don't know, region, where shale deposits and natural gas are most plentiful, to give out mining rights there, mainly to Burisma. Inquiring minds want to know. President Zelensky will also ask why Greek Cypriots, Christina Sophokleos, Reginos Charalampos, and Marina Perakleos are on the board and handling Burisma's money while living in Cyprus. The only Ukrainian on the board is the founder's daughter, Karina Zolvitsky, and she is as clueless about energy as the Democrat hacks. Not a single energy person on the board, and only one common denominator: ties to Democrat puppeteer George Soros. Okay, I'm going to stop there because this goes on, but the main thing is, okay, why does Biden care so much about Ukraine? Well, let's see. I've known this for a while, that these corrupt politicians are laundering money through Ukraine. They're getting their dirty money through Ukraine. Okay, so I'm not going to comment on what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. I want Ukraine to remain a free nation. I want every nation to remain free that is free. Putin is stepping in. I would probably guess because he's sick and tired of Ukraine being taken advantage of. I would guess. I don't know that for sure, but I know one thing for sure. There's a tweet there's tweets that should be playing while I'm talking on this video. Those tweets show every single deep state, dirty, corrupt politician that we have, the most dirtiest of the dirty. They're all on the same page saying what? The same thing. Oh, Russia, you're so mean, you're so mean. No, that's their corrupt money supply. They want their corrupt money supply to keep on coming. So I don't know. I'm assuming that if Ukraine and Russia do get back together, if they do mend fences and say, okay, let's get back together, then their money supply is cut off. Not only that, investigations won't be able to be stopped because I'm quite sure that Putin is not a big fan of. I mean, I don't want to say anything mean, but these people have no business being on a board of any multi-million-dollar corporation. If you look at Hunter Biden, and I feel for the guy. I actually do feel for the guy because I think that his dad was just a crappy dad. And the kid's obviously going through stuff, and he's got a drug problem. And the dad, just because he wants to keep playing politics and keep making money, I don't know if any of you people know this, but whenever you're a politician and you're getting corrupt business deals, the money cannot go directly to the politician. It has to go to a politician's family member, which is why John Kerry's son, or you got the Clinton Foundation for that thing for the Clintons. But when it comes to Joe Biden, he got money from China, Ukraine. I mean, they were all going to Hunter Biden, who has a very bad drug problem, and among other problems. This should be common knowledge. And I'm sorry, if this stuff offends you, then you are brainwashed. And what I'm starting to realize is the people that are brainwashed who are like, Trump's bad. But, then when I ask them, I'm like, okay, well, listen, why is Trump bad? Not that I think Trump's the greatest politician in the world or anything, but I just, why is Trump bad? And they can't answer it, or they give me something like, well, he's a Russian. Really? And you can't help these people. I'm realizing that. These people that are so brainwashed by the media, listen, they can't be helped. They need to go through like a deprogramming process. I don't know how that process is going to look. I have no clue. But they are brainwashed, and they have been activated to be angry and hateful to anybody that spits out the truth, because that's what these politicians don't want, is the truth getting out. So as far as what's going on in Ukraine, why Joe Biden has took such an interest in the integrity of Ukraine, that's one reason why. I've got one more video that I'm working on after this that will help explain it, but I just wanted to put this out because I see a lot of people that don't understand really what's going on. This is just a start, so here's a little bit of understanding for everybody.